and even tackling Pakistani drones and missiles from causing damage on Bharat soil. The Aeronautical Development Agency is set to execute the program through industry partnership with a rollout expected in 2035. We are very sincerely hoping as a country that it is sooner than later. Here's a deep dive. Bharat's 5th Gen fighter mission, it's got to have a max speed of 1.8 Mach or nearly 2 times the speed of sound. There will be 5 prototypes which are in development. The induction is expected by 2035. 2 squadrons, 80 jets. It's going to be a stealth aircraft. China's J-20, J-31 and supply to park fuel threat. It's key for covert ops and tackling enemy defenses. It's got a low RCS, that means radar detection system, and it can beat low. It'll be seen only when it is in close distance. It can't be spotted from afar. So stealth capabilities. The missile load is about 4 to 6. It'll be in service by 2035. It'll have features like advanced avionics, sensor fusion, network warfare, and also it will be nuclear tipped. It is going to be taking on the likes of the Su-57, F-22 and of course the J-20 Chengdu. But it's a big boost, big boost to Atmanirbhar Bharat in defense. It'll have multi-role functions. It can do dogfights, although current day dogfights are from a distance, from far away. They can have punitive strikes. It will be also capable in electronic warfare, and it will be able to carry at least 5 to 6 payloads. Nuclear tipped for sure, but more importantly, the most advanced. Let's also understand as we wheel this out that this also puts Bharat right at bang center of the military industrial complex. India, Russia, USA, China. Let's try and compare and contrast these aircrafts and across these countries. Let's go a little big on that. It's got a max speed of 1.8 Mach, so tad slower compared to the Russian Su-57 and what the capabilities of the F-22 have, but it's almost at par with the J-20 Chengdu. The other aspect, as far as the 5th Gen tech is concerned, as we move forward, is to understand the stealth capabilities. It's got almost identical stealth capabilities with some of the others. Very low RCS. This will be on a low radar detection system. So it will have stealth functions. But most importantly, Bharat can tailor make it to suit its needs. It does not need to let its tech specs be with another nation's aircraft manufacturer, even if it is a government-to-government deal. The missile load, again, very similar. The Chinese J-22 can carry more payload in terms of 6 to 8 missiles. We'll have 4 to 6, similar to the Su-57. The US ones can carry up to 8, but then their distance coverage is also limited because of the load on the aircraft itself. By 2035, it will be pressed into service. We are a little behind. Russia already has its Su-57s in service since 2020. The US has its F-22 since 2005. And the F-22, J-22, the J-20 is in service since 2017. In fact, the Chinese and the US have moved to the F-35s and the J-35s with higher stealth capacity. But this is our own tech. And that's what we need to be very proud of. Akash Sharma gets us this report from ground zero, and this is a model. This is how our own 5th Gen stealth fighter will look very soon.
In a major push to India's Atmanirbharta approach in the defense sector, Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh has approved the execution model of AMCA program. AMCA program is India's 5th generation fighter aircraft program, which stands for Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft. Till now, we have seen all the developments in papers, documents and the news. But now the development will start on ground, because we are expecting an expression of interest in some days from now. It has been made very clear that this program, and in fact the development, will not be limited to public sector undertakings only. This time, it can be an equal opportunity for both private industry and public sector undertakings. In fact, there can be a joint venture that would be working for the development of AMCA aircraft. We know that how in several exhibitions we have seen the prototype model, and in fact the developments that have happened till now. The prototype, of course, is expected by 2027, and the actual aircraft and the deliveries are expected by 2036. We know that how DRDO is the lead agency, and ADA, which is an arm of DRDO, is working on the entire project. Till now, officials say that timelines are on track, and by 2036, we can expect that AMCA would be a reality. And in fact, the prototype will be seen by 2027. But having seen Sindoor, in fact, the Operation Sindoor, we know that how critical and important this project is going to be for Indian Armed Forces. We know that how a fifth generation aircraft is something that Indian Armed Forces need at this point in time. And given the fact that Indian Air Force as of now have aircraft like Rafale, Su-30 MKI and Mirage, so they of course need a fifth generation fighter aircraft, and having one indigenous aircraft is an advantage in itself. At this point in time, while CCS has already approved the execution, Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh has further approved, and now it will be formalized that how public sector undertakings and private entities are coming together to work on the development of this AMCA program that is going to be reality for Indian Armed Forces by 2036.
Well, we'd like it sooner than later, another 11 years before this program, because there are nations which are ahead of us and they will be moving perhaps to far more advanced programs. So we will have to, as a nation, make multiple technological leaps. But at least there is intent. Let's hope there is more might and more interest shown by the private sector, and this partnership works and allows us to perhaps jump 1 or 2 gen before to get far better aircraft out. Let's move on here on the right stand and set up the first political debate and the conversation point. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, speaking in Gujarat, hit out at the opposition for doubting Bharat's precision strikes during Operation Sindoor, saying that even though everything was captured on camera, the opposition continues to doubt the success of the mission. The Saboot gang is what he called them. The Prime Minister later went into history and the genesis of this entire Kashmir problem. Targeting Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the Prime Minister, first Prime Minister of our country, PM Modi said that Sardar Patel's wish was that until we get POK, our armed forces should not stop. But no one listened to him, and now we've been facing terrorism for the last 75 years. Listen in.
पहला आतंकवादी हमला कश्मीर की धरती पर हुआ। मां भारती का एक हिस्सा आतंकवादियों के बलबूते पर, मुजाहिदों के नाम पर पाकिस्तान ने हड़प ले लिया। और सरदार पटेल की इच्छा थी कि पीओके वापस नहीं आता है तब तक सेना रुकनी नहीं चाहिए। लेकिन सरदार साहब की बात मानी नहीं गई।
Time and again, many would ask, why should we go back into history? What's done is done. But it's what was not done or what was done in history that the current generation and today we are paying the price of. Be it Aksai Chin, viewers, or be it POK and POJK. On the 3rd of January 1948, just a few months after Bharat's independence, Sardar Patel delivered a speech in Kolkata where he said, and I quote, "With regard to Kashmir, we say it is better to have an open fight than to have disguised warfare. If Kashmir is to be saved by sword, where is the scope for plebiscite?" He predicted the disguised warfare that has been plaguing Bharat since independence, which could have been nipped in the bud back in 1947 itself. Remember, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, despite being the Home Minister of the country, was not involved in the discussions around the accession of Jammu and Kashmir into Bharat. Now, that's not all. As we showed you here on the right stand, under Pandit Nehru, there was a deal to carve more Indian territory in 1963. According to a US State Department telegram on the proposal from Nehru government to Pakistan via Foreign Minister Swaran Singh, the document read, Swaran Singh in the presenting the Government of India proposal described it a line of peace and collaboration and one which accorded with ethnic and linguistic as well as important economic factors. Broadly speaking, it followed ceasefire line with certain limited adjustments. In the central sector, it straightened out the Poonch sector. And in the Muzaffarabad district, it followed the Baramulla district boundary. Thereafter, following the line of the Kishanganga watershed to the south of Kishanganga Valley, leaving all of the valley and certain areas to Pakistan. As quid pro quo, there would be adjustments in favor of Indians around the Kargil region. So, we were ready to cede almost all this territory and redraw the forward line or the international boundary towards the LOC. But now, not just Pandit Nehru, under Indira Gandhi, after Bharat became a nuclear power in 1974, Indira Gandhi said, and I quote, I have explained in my letter to the Prime Minister Bhutto the peaceful nature and economic purposes of this experiment and have also stated that India is willing to share her nuclear technology with Pakistan. It extended all the way into 1991, where India created an agreement to notify Pakistan about military movements. The notifications read, and I quote, agreement for prior notification for military exercises, maneuvers and troop movement near border, intimation via diplomatic channels within specified time frame before planned activities. How much will we continue to feed the enemy which is obsessed? And every time they raise the white flag, we go ahead and perhaps further commit some more of our territorial integrity and sovereignty and national security. Pradeep Bhandari, national spokesperson of the BJP with us. Sanjay Jha, political analyst with us. My namaste and Jai Hind, gentlemen. Thank you very, very much. Sanjay Jha, when the Congress turns around and asks questions, the legacy of the past haunts us today. Inactions of the past haunt us today. And in geopolitics and territorial sovereignty and integrity, this is something which we should have thought of as a nation, as a polity. Sanjay ji.
Anand, good evening. You have already in your introduction taken a clear stance. So in fairness of a very neutral debate, give me enough time to debunk some of the notions that have been promoted by you on your show. Let me do that right away. First and foremost, I think the Prime Minister of our country actually invokes the past because he has no solutions to the moment. And I think he has been a disaster, as has been established with the security and intelligence failure in Pahalgam, a brutal terror attack that killed 27 innocent people of our country, including a Nepalese citizen. And this government has failed India on national security. I'll address the broader issues in your subsequent questions, but let me address what Prime Minister Modi raised and you talked about as regards Kashmir. It's a very checkered, complicated history. So let me tell you straightforward. When the instrument of accession was signed between India and Jammu and Kashmir under Raja Hari Singh, I think the date was 26th October 1947, who was the Prime Minister? It was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. So the truth is that if it was not for Pandit Nehru, I can tell you Jammu and Kashmir may not have been even part of our country. It's incontrovertible, and I challenge anybody from the BJP, any historian, to dismiss that reality. And Anand, since you are now a very seasoned veteran journalist, let me tell you two things that one should be aware of. It was his relationship, Pandit Nehru's relationship with Sheikh Abdullah. Sheikh Abdullah actually went public, and Jammu and Kashmir was a Muslim majority state. But Sheikh Abdullah said that we will be with India. What made him say that? Because he believed in the same model of socialism and secularism and harmony that Pandit Nehru wanted. They were friends. The second point is Nehru's relationship with Lord Mountbatten. Lord Mountbatten was equally influential in ensuring that Hari Singh was told that if you want help from the Indian army, because the Pathans and the Pakistani tribal people were already on the verge of entering Srinagar, they did, that if you need help from the Indian army, you will need to sign the instrument of accession. And let me tell you something, Anand, this is critical. I'm glad we are having a very mature debate here because I think we should know these facts. And end of day, remember that Hari Singh wanted to be independent. Essentially, he wanted to be independent. And since you mentioned Sardar Patel, don't cherry pick. Go back into history. I'm a student of history, so I will tell you. Sardar Patel and Pandit Nehru got along like a house on fire. But when it came to Kashmir, and Sardar Patel had a lot of other princely states to take care of, including Junagadh. And he was at that point, he's on record to say, because he was concerned, right? Because in Junagadh, you had the Nizam's problem, where you had a Muslim ruler with a Hindu majority population. And Kashmir was just the opposite. And I think the way we handled it together, Sardar Patel, Pandit Nehru, Lord Mountbatten came on our side, and Sheikh Abdullah spoke up for India. That's how it all happened. It's very unfortunate. I'm going to tell you this, that Modi ji is a Prime Minister of India. He has every right to play politics. He can have an opinion, but he can't change history. Please don't try and change facts, Mr. Modi. And I will expect my friend Pradeep Bhandari, with whom I go face to face on many television channels. He's an aggressive guy. He's a very good spokesperson. But on these issues, I think we need to have a more calibrated and a mature conversation.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. And we'll try and keep it civil and we'll all have our points of view. Had I been spokesperson or had I been a neutral expert or had I been a student of Bharatiya history and not sitting on the anchor's chair here, I would have had a lot of things to share with you. But to viewers and to you, very humbly, as I ask National Spokesperson of the BJP, Pradeep Bhandari, to rebut your charges, I would just like to bring to perspective Raiders in Kashmir, written by Brigadier Akbar Khan, printed in 1971, reprinted sometime in the late 2019. This book outlines the Pakistani point of view under Liaquat Ali, and Brigadier Akbar Khan was the one who led the Pakistan Army's attack onto Jammu and Kashmir in 1947. What they thought, how they came here, what they did, and what their attitude was is all purely written there, clinically doctrined there, and detailed. Please read it and you will have a different perspective perhaps. And closer home, there is so much more that's been written by people who are contemporaries of Pandit Nehru and Sardar Patel and present in the same room when some certain arguments and conversations happened. But Pradeep Bhandari, Prime Minister, has misquoted history. The Prime Minister is going back into history because he's got nothing to comment on in the present. And at that time, Sardar Patel was busy with Junagadh, so Pandit Nehru shouldered the load by engaging in Jammu and Kashmir, since Sheikh Abdullah was his dearest friend and Lord Mountbatten helped us all.
Well, Anandji, I have very great personal regards for Sanjay, but let me state facts as it is, that had it been for Jawaharlal Nehru, the entire Jammu and Kashmir would have been given to Pakistan. Thank God we had Sardar Patel that we could save Jammu and Kashmir, because Nehru ji gave Aksai Chin to China and POK to Jammu and Kashmir, POK to Pakistan, and I will prove it with facts. Sardar Patel wrote a letter to Dr. Rajendra Prasad on June 29, 1949, in which he said that the Kashmir issue could have been solved had Jawaharlal Nehru not led the troops to go from Baramulla to Domel. This is what Sardar Patel had written. Then Sardar Patel further writes to Achyut Patwardhan, who was the founder of the Socialist Party of India, I could have solved Kashmir in 6 months had Nehru given me the charge. Now let us go forward and see what N.V. Gadgil, the Cabinet Minister for Works and Minings in Nehru's cabinet, had written. In truth, Nehru did not show any enthusiasm for Jammu and Kashmir's accession at that time. Both the Maharaja and Patel pressed for Jammu and Kashmir's accession in India, but Nehru would not move. I am afraid that Nehru is responsible for prolongation of the problem through his willingness to compromise at every stage. M.V. Muthai, who was the private secretary to Jawaharlal Nehru, he writes, and I quote, Jawaharlal Nehru rolled back when we were in a very strong position against the enemy. Nehru's decisions were impulsive, was a grievous error, much resented by the armed forces. In fact, at that time, let me tell you what late Field Marshal K.M. Karyappa had written in his biography. He had said that Thimaiya ji, who was at that time the general officer of the Indian Army, he had went to Nehru and asked for 2 months that the Indian Army would completely take POK, but Jawaharlal Nehru refused. Let me quote further. Deputy Prime Minister of Jammu and Kashmir between 1947 to 1953 was Bakshi Ghulam Muhammad and of the National Conference. And let me tell you what did he say to Sardar Patel. Why do you, Sardar Patel, not take over the problem and finish Jammu and Kashmir's problem like you did in Hyderabad? Patel replied cryptically, you go to your friend Nehru and tell him to keep his hands off Kashmir problem for 2 months and I will undertake and solve it. This was endorsed by Rajmohan Gandhi in his book Patel Alive. So what Mr. Sanjay Jha is saying is absolutely away from reality. In fact, Karan Singh, veteran Congress leader, had said that Mountbatten pushed Jawaharlal Nehru to take the Kashmir issue to the United Nations. So it was grievous error. If he does not believe this, let me quote what Manibin, Sardar Patel's daughter, in a diary on May 1st, 1949 wrote. Sardar was very unhappy that Nehru had to take Jammu and Kashmir issue to United Nations, which tied India's hand. His idea was that India should extricate itself from UN patiently and then solve the Kashmir issue forever. So facts are completely away from fiction. What my dear friend Sanjay is saying, we can agree on certain points, but on this I am very firm, Anandji. And in fact, let me quote further. Jawaharlal Nehru, as you rightly said, had signed this peace of tranquility when Swan Singh was the foreign minister, where Ooch hai Pooch and Uri he had agreed to give to Pakistan, but at that time Pakistan wanted entire Jammu and Kashmir. That's why it could not happen. And even Indira Gandhi, post 2 months of Operation Smiling Buddha, had agreed to give nuclear technology, and Rajiv Gandhi ji was speaking about nuclear disarmament when Pakistan was enriching uranium and China was already nuked. So this is where the Congress party has been on national security, whether it is Article 370, whether it is giving POK to Pakistan. This has been abject failure of Jawaharlal Nehru ji. These are mere facts, pure facts.
Sanjay Jha.
Yeah. Thank you, Pradeep, and thank you, Anand. You know, the simple point is this, Anand, that end of day, why did Hari Singh accede to India? The simple reason was that at that point, the Pakistan-sponsored Pathans were creating havoc and murdering and, brutally killing innocent people. And they were on their attempt to ravage and take over the entire Jammu and Kashmir. I think you got to give hats off here to the leadership from India that reacted promptly, but ensured that Hari Singh did not back out later, because his key attempt was to become independent. Now, here is the point. Mr. Modi and the BJP and Pradeep, they keep talking about the fact that why did this matter go to the Kashmir issue, go to the United Nations? The answer to that is very straightforward. You had Sheikh Abdullah, who was the most popular man, by the way, who ended up being the Prime Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, largely because of Pandit Nehru's insistence that Hari Singh appoint him. The second part was very, very critical, that there was confidence in India. There was confidence in Pandit Nehru and Sheikh Abdullah that if there was a plebiscite, because Sheikh Abdullah was talking about Jammu and Kashmir being with India, they would go with India. But they put a precondition that Pakistan would have to vacate the areas that its tribesmen, or mostly all of them were basically Pakistan army, the places that they had occupied. And that would have been a free and independent vote of Jammu and Kashmir for our country. Now, these are things that you take a call on. And I think at this point, one of the things that I will say upfront, I may have a disagreement with you, Anand. I may disagree with Pradeep tomorrow. But I will never, ever say that Pradeep or Anand are anti-national because they disagree with me. I'm happy that Mr. Modi's government, in having Congress, people like Shashi Tharoor and Salman Khurshid, or just inviting the opposition, is at last recognizing the importance of a very calibrated and, more important, a cohesive approach to matters of border security and foreign policy. We can argue about it, but I think we should argue on facts. And here is the simple point that I want to make. My last point. That end of day, Pradeep, we need to answer the critical questions that people of India want to know. Why have the terrorists disappeared into oblivion? They come not at the border. I have been to Pahalgam. I was there 3 days before the horrific massacre. And I can tell you, Pahalgam is not at the borders, right? They come, they go, nobody knows. It's over a month. I mean, the government has to explain itself. You got to explain why Donald Trump seems to be championing the entire ceasefire story. There are challenges that we need to address together. And I think, don't get upset when we ask these questions. We have stood with the government, and we will on matters of foreign policy and security.
Okay. Now here is the thing, that when you comment this and when you make these things, then geopolitics is important. Why is it that the only state or the only riyasat which Pandit Nehru got into the negotiations is half cooked and half baked? The rest are all fully acceded and part of Bharat, including the Nizam's region in Hyderabad. Sir, relevant question. No, one minute.
It's a demographic story.
One minute, sir.
It's a demographic reality.
I am just asking, these are questions that matter and they hurt the national interest. If Junagadh was a contentious issue, how is it that all of Junagadh is part of Bharat, but not Jammu and Kashmir? The only riyasat that Pandit Nehru got involved with is a problem child 7.5 decades later. Sir,
he was a Kashmiri who loved Kashmir.
I am.
He had a personal stake as well.
1 minute, sir. I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody's lineage, family, etc. History has a different documentation. I don't want to get into all of that. What I'm trying to say is, as Prime Minister of the country, this is only one riyasat he was involved in, and that's a problem. The only one riyasat that strategically mattered to us so importantly, because had we got all of POJK at that time, then this entire portion where CPEC is being built would not have been ceded to China. The Taklamakan corridor and the desert, at that time, we would have access to it. We would have had an area where we could have built a bridge to Tajikistan, and we would have stopped China's entry using that corridor into Afghanistan. We would have had a direct road all the way to Afghanistan. All the way to Afghanistan and all the way into Central Europe, Central Asia and Europe. We would have been able to build our roads, which we can't do today. And if all of POJK was the objective, then all of POJK should have been got. That's what Sardar Patel said. Army gayi hai to pura kaam khatam karke aao, aadha chhod ke mat aao. That's all he said, and that's what the PM was also saying. These are all decisions of the past which are hurting us today in the present. Kartarpur corridor, 500 meters, sir. 500 meters. 1971. We had gone beyond, Bharat had gone beyond Kartarpur corridor. Why didn't we retain Kartarpur corridor? This problem with the K goons and with the issue of Sikhs not being able to go to Kartarpur Sahib and Nankana Sahib, all of this would not have happened. So these are all points which we as a nation need to reflect on. I'm not pointing at only at the Congress party. I'm saying the vision of the leadership. How is it that a Mao Zedong had a 100-year blueprint which is being followed to the T even by Xi Jinping today? So why is it that Bharat doesn't have a doctrine and a decision which politicians will follow, which will secure Bharat? These are questions we need to ask honestly, brazenly, and if mistakes of the past, accept it. Pradeep Bhandari, yes.
First of all, had it not been for Maharaja Hari Singh, Jammu and Kashmir would not have acceded to India, because Sheikh Abdullah was completely pro-Pakistan and Nehru also realized it later. That's why he had to jail him. But let's go forward and debunk what Sanjay had said. Sanjay, you spoke. Let me just quote facts. Sardar Patel was first of all against plebiscite. Sardar Patel wrote a letter to R.K. Patil, the member of the first planning commission, on 28 September 1950, and quote Sardar Patel, "In Kashmir we are spending crores. If there is a plebiscite in the valley, we were bound to lose." So he was against plebiscite, point number one. Point number two, it's just not limited to this, Anand. Even Baluchistan in 1948 had asked Jawaharlal Nehru that it wanted to be with India, but Nehru ji said no, and this is where we are still suffering for it. That is point number two. Point number three, let me quote another fact. At that time, B.N. Malik was the Deputy Director of the Intelligence Bureau. There was a book which was written, My Years with Nehru, Kashmir, in 1949, in which Deputy Director of the Intelligence Bureau, B.N. Malik, at that time writes, and I quote, Sardar Patel had suspected that Sheikh Abdullah was not a genuine man. He was misleading Pandit Nehru, and he was not happy that the report should have been made public. But Nehru went with Sheikh Abdullah, not with Patel, and this is what the reality is. In fact, Nehru differed with Patel to such an extent, and I will complete this, that Nehru had even called Patel a fundamentalist. And this is what has been written at that time in one of the books, which was K.P. Nair in his autobiography during the cabinet meeting said that Nehru labelled Patel as a perfect fundamentalist for his stand on Jammu and Kashmir. So Jawaharlal Nehru did not have a cozy and a very good relationship with Patel, because Patel stood for national interest. That is the reality.
There is also
another quick rejoinder.
Sir, I just also want to underline, in that meeting where all the provinces were supposed to elect the Congress president, who's eventually supposed to become the Prime Minister of Bharat, whose name came unanimously from all the provinces, sir?
It was
And
Patel.
whose name was then shown again, and then there was Mahatma Gandhi who stood there and looked at Patel, and Patel said, "I recuse myself." So there are certain insecurities and certain issues which were there at that time between the political leaders. So let us accept that. But yes, final word. I have to wind up. Ji.
Anand, in short, let me tell you that I think the leadership from both Sardar Patel and Pandit Nehru together was exemplary. They could have had a difference of opinion. You asked me why Jammu and Kashmir was different, simply because it bordered with Pakistan. It
And
had a
Nehru-
very significant.
I disagree, Anand.
Okay,
ji.
just a minute, just a minute.
Okay.
Just
We
a
have had
minute.
a civil debate all while.
ahead.
I'll
Just a
give you a
minute.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, it had a very security sensitive location. It was again contiguous with both the countries' borders. And end of day, I think the fact that we cannot deny, it was a Muslim majority state with a Hindu ruler. And it was important for India. It was important for India to handle that with great sensitivity. As you can see with Mr. Modi's government, I'm sorry, Pradeep, I have to say this. Several years after independence, you can't handle Manipur. You can't handle Manipur. Remember, Pandit Nehru,
Sanjay ji,
under his leadership, the war with Pakistan,
Sanjay
the first
ji,
war continued till 1949.
Sanjay ji, 1 minute.
And you compromised in 3 days.
Sanjay ji, I'll tell you what. I would like to believe, and I am very convinced that you're as much as a patriot as I am, or Pradeep Bhandari, or any other Bharatiya is. But sir, the land which was never seen before, which had been blind spotted, has now become the focus of a huge amount of energies across the country, and that region is the northeast of our country. The entire demographic change within 40 years of blindsightedness under the Congress rule, states have been totally religiously converted. And it was blind spotted. So there is less said about the northeast, the better, respectfully. But when it comes to Jammu and Kashmir, if it was so important, sir, and the importance of Jammu and Kashmir strategically, geopolitically was understood by Pandit Nehru, then he would have ensured that all of Jammu and Kashmir continued to remain an integral part of India. Because when Raja Hari Singh acceded to Bharat, at that time the letter of instrument of accession said all of Jammu and Kashmir. It did not say a portion of it or part of it, and that should have been uncompromising by Pandit Nehru. So there is no. And in 1948, if the Pakistanis moved into annex the Khan of Kalat at the behest of the Brits at that time, then Pandit Nehru should have known that Bharat needed its military might. He should not have come out and said we don't need an army and shut down all the ordnance factories. So what insecurity certain leaders had, or what myopic view certain leaders had, we have to. History is unkind to some, but we have to accept that. Pradeep Bhandari, you have to wind up.
30
Really
seconds.
Yeah.
Thank God he's spoken about Northeast, because Jawaharlal Nehru had said in his radio speech that he was willing to give Assam when China had attacked India, and Mizoram was bombed by the Gandhis, if you recall very well. Now let me just quote a very important point, because Sheikh Abdullah was completely pro-Pakistani. This was acknowledged by Nehru in one of his letters, which is written, which is even quoted by Ramchandra Guha. He's a favorite historian, which is read by Sanjay Jha. Sheikh Abdullah is no longer behaving properly. He started to acting poorly on the Kashmir issue. He is wrong. He started to support the pro-Pakistan line. So Nehru himself realized that his support to Sheikh Abdullah was completely wrong. Thank God we had a Maharaja Hari Singh and Sardar Patel who saved us. Otherwise, the entire Jammu and Kashmir Nehruji would have given to Pakistan.
What was done with Jammu and Kashmir is another story. Sheikh Abdullah was brought out of incarceration because Salahuddin won the elections, and then Salahuddin went on to start Hizbul Mujahideen. So the whole story of how Jammu and Kashmir has been run roughshod is very clear. I leave viewers with this question. One region, one riyasat, the Prime Minister said he'll take care of, has become the problem child for the last 7.5 decades. So who did a hack job of it and who did not, with the rest of the riyasats out of 702 riyasats, is left for the viewers to decide. Thank you, gentlemen, for an engaging and constructive debate. Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on, here on the right stand, Bharat's military has highlighted how we gave a bloody nose to Pakistan, and that too via Operation Sindoor. Visuals have been shared by the BSF. Our forces, security forces, the BSF, the Border Security Force, has shared visuals, fresh ones, of the damage caused to posts of Pakistani Rangers during the retaliation to ceasefire violations. Now remember, Pakistan indulged in heavy firing along the LOC 3 days after Bharat's May 7 strikes on terror camps. But Bharat responded in kind. This is a visual of the destruction of a terror launch pad in Putwal in Pakistan. The next one, the BSF also destroyed Pakistan's Dhandar post. Now, this action was in response to a massive infiltration bid by terrorists. The BSF caused extensive damage to the Pakistani post and neutralized at least 7 terrorists. The third footage is Pakistan continuing to dare the BSF forces, but they did not expect the destruction to their infrastructure. Here is another video of how Pakistan's post of Chota Chak was neutralized. A fourth one. The BSF forces also destroyed Mumtaz complex in Pakistan territory used by both Pakistani Rangers and terrorists. Let's listen to the DIG of BSF and what he had to say while speaking with News 18.
ऐसे इंटरसेप्ट भी किए गए मैसेज पाकिस्तान की तरफ से कि अब्दुलिया को निशाना बनाओ, तो ये साफ था पाकिस्तान की तरफ से रिहायशी इलाकों को निशाना बनाने के निर्देश दिए गए थे।
हाँ बिल्कुल, ये हमें रात को जो खुफिया तंत्रों से पता लग रहा था कि वो हमारे जो अब्दुलिया गांव है उसको निशाना बना रहे थे, और उसमें हमने जो हमारी जो 81 मोटर और दूसरी जो फायरिंग इक्विपमेंट थे, वेपन एम्यूनिशन थे, हमने उनको फायर किया और उनको बिल्कुल साइलेंस किया।
सर, इसके साथ साथ हमने कहीं उनकी पोस्टों को तबाह किया और जो आतंकी लॉन्चिंग पैड्स हैं, किस तरह के इनपुट्स बीएसएफ के पास थे, क्योंकि काफ़ी देर से घुसपैठ की कोशिशें भी वहाँ से कोशिशें हालांकि नाकाम बनाएगी, लेकिन कोशिशें उनकी तरफ से जारी थी।
हाँ बिल्कुल, ये आप सही बोला कि आपने जो काउंटर पार्ट साइड में जो उनके लॉन्च पैड थे, हमारे एरिया के सामने जो एक मस्तपुर था, हमने उसको तबाह किया अपनी फायरिंग से, और हमारी जो जवान है बिल्कुल मुस्तैद हैं, और हम 365 दिन साल में पूरी अपनी तैयारी रखते हैं, और हमारे जवान पूरी तरीके से ट्रेंड है, और किसी भी चैलेंज को लेने के लिए, चाहे अपना ऑपरेशन सिंदूर और उसके बाद भी हम पूरी के तरीके से अपने जवानों को मोटिवेट करके रखे हुए हैं।
Big news coming through, and this is a CNN News 18 exclusive on the emergence of evidence of anti-India insurgency groups getting logistical support and getting organized in Bangladesh. Seizure of Kukichin National Front uniforms from a garment factory in Chattogram has come to the fore. 20,000 plus KNF uniforms have been seized during a raid on Ringwo Apparels in Chattogram. 3 suspects, including the factory owner, 1 local KNF commander, have been arrested. The uniforms deal was worth about $2 million or 2 crore taka. The delivery was scheduled for later this month. The factory owner says they were unaware that this order was actually illegal. The KNF has boosted activity in Chittagong Hill Tract for insurgency operations. The KNF is accused of extortion, kidnappings, robberies and Islamist collaborations. More importantly, the KNF officially has a cadre of just 12,000 cadre or about 12,000 cadre. But they have got uniforms stitched for more than 20,000. The numbers say it is up to about 30,000. So another 18,000 extra uniforms. Why were they getting these stitched is another question. And this factory was also stitching garments for the ARSA, the Arakan Rakhin Salvation Army, and also certain other insurgent outfits in Manipur. And they were getting all of this stitched in a garment factory in proper Chattogram. Lieutenant General Pandey is with us, Ambassador Deepak Vora with us. Namaste, Jai Hind. Such a pleasure to see you two gentlemen.
Pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, sir. Ab Bangladesh, bataiye what is going on? Mohammad Yunus Khan is there. There is also a huge development of aggregation of the radicals in Dhaka. There is huge military deployment in Dhaka, and in Chattogram this is an open field for insurgents. We discussed Lalmonirhat, the airbase that the Chinese have come and visited, World War II airbase only yesterday. So those reports, all of this between now, last 3-4 months, Ambassador.
Well, thank you very much. Always a pleasure to be with you, and of course with General Pandey, who is a legend in the Indian Army and
continues to soldier with passion.
He is outstanding. So are you. You're one of the best in the country. Well, thank you very much. You know, the thing about Bangladesh, I've been there several times. I've met Sheikh Hasina, etc. What I'm seeing happen there is this guy who used to be the gatekeeper or the cook for Hillary and Billubhai Clinton and was foisted on the people of Bangladesh, unelected.
Sir, he's not even a citizen of Bangladesh.
Thank you very much.
He's a US passport holder.
And in 1971, by the way, when the Bangladesh Liberation War was on, this guy was based in Tennessee, I think. And there he used to publish a Bangladesh newspaper saying he Pakistani badmash hai, chor hai, daku hai. And now he's darling with these guys. But opinions change. My own feeling, sir, is that his days are numbered.
Okay.
And he is trying to see if on the basis of a certain nuisance value, he can survive. Which means that if you guys kick me out, I've already got these battalions of jihadis and I can unleash them. And that is not going to work because there's another character there called General Wakar-uz-Zaman who says, you know, Chief Advisor, get lost because you're a pretty useless character. You are destroyed. He's come on record. He said publicly that the country is about to crumble. This guy doesn't care. He's so used to, he loves being referred to as Your Excellency. Because Macron refused to meet him and this guy in his arrogance says, I'm not going to France. You know, he was going for that conference on the oceans and so on. Yeah. So my own feeling is, sir, he is deliberately doing what he is doing and he is trying to tell the jihadis across on the other side of the Indian border, he's trying to tell jihadis wherever they are that look, I am your base. If you have been kicked out of country A, B, C and D, come to Bangladesh, you'll find fertile ground here. It's a very dangerous game because the monster that he is creating, I don't think he's ever read Dr. Frankenstein, the monster will come back to eat him. Frankenstein was the creator, he is Frankenstein. The monster is the jihadis whom he is creating.
But Ambassador Saab, see, one of the best, all these compliments that you've showered on us come back, bouncing back at you. You're the senior, like you said, you've met all these leaders, you've seen how it is. How is it, General Pandey, that we are supposed to be the big daddy in this region and then America orchestrates a regime change in Bangladesh and we are not wise enough? There could be a situation soon, do you agree, disagree, that within the next 6 months we should have a military rule or a coup in Pakistan. And in the next 48 hours or if not a week, there could be a temporary coup that could happen and martial law imposed in Bangladesh. How is it that we are allowing this to happen? Is this not a huge challenge? And especially with these insurgents having a free run along with the radical outfits, Hizb ut-Tahrir, Al-Qaeda Bangladesh, all of them are openly there. Today again, the Awami League has protested the release by the courts of a serial killer and a wanted terrorist and a person of interest, a terrorist.
So let's start with a couple of things, you know. One is there's a repetition of what was happening in Pakistan is happening in Bangladesh. And when you look at the manner in which is coming out, it is very clear that the deep state involvement to carry out these kind of an action is quite evident. You know, there's quite replication of same thing what is happening in Pakistan. What has happened in Pakistan all the time. You pick up a fringe element, you foist it on a population, in a manner or this thing. It's a system where they have applied all across the world and thereafter tell that fringe chief, right, you bring him out from US, foist them and thereafter you tell him that you need to use religion to bind your people. So to say that we are not aware of what is going to happen will be possibly wrong, but the problem is that you can't do much in such an environment. We are not powerful enough right now to go inside and intervene in those manners the way world powers do, and in sense of world power, only one power does it today and that is, we know whom we are referring to. So look at equivalence, look at similarities. So you pick up this guy, now you tell him that Islam is the only way to go forward. There is already a large element in 1971, which was aligned to Pakistan in any case, right? They were the supporters of Pak Army, the Razakars, who really got mauled over a period of time. That ideology remained, and I keep on saying, the radical virus goes back for some times, but it mutates and comes back stronger. It took them time to come stronger, about 50 years plus, but they have come back. So they are the one which are riding. The second is, when you use students to carry out this in terms of an ideological framework where you are looking for a very ideal state, right? And you combine this mixture of religion and student stuff, it becomes really volatile, uncontrollable. So in last few days, I'm quite sure you are also aware that there are voices which are saying that Yunus wants to leave and get out. He's aged. This is a hot potato he's taken. Right? It is difficult for them. Only sane voice there. And when you say a martial law comes into Pakistan and a martial law comes in Bangladesh, I look at positively in Bangladesh because Bangladesh army is a different animal.
And Wakar-uz-Zaman seems to have his heart in the right place.
Okay, I will not talk of only leadership. You know what happens is, I have trained number of Bangladesh officers.
But sir, during the coup, we could see that nearly 15 to 20% of the Bangladeshi army is also now become radicalized.
So 15 to 20% vis-a-vis 80% in Pakistan. There's a huge difference. Again, when the society is radicalized to 15-20%, the Bangladesh army is going to be a representative of the society. So let's not focus on 10 to 15, but there's a large number which is quite balanced. I have met those officers. They are very, very professional officers. They are into military profession. They are not into religious profession. Unlike what your friend Asim Munir, right?
Correct.
You are quite friendly with him, so I know.
Pinjre wali Munir.
Pinjre wali Munir, yeah. So, you know, there is a difference between the two. I'll be pretty okay that this gentleman takes over and ensures fair elections, and this whole butchering which is going on of you imagine the BNP was in support at some point of time. Now they realized that it is hunger of power of Yunus, who wanted to come back into power as a president, as so many things, but he was denied that opportunity because the Bangladeshi strategic community knew what he was truly.
See, right? I think the Bangladesh people have to realize that right now, nearly 12 of the people who are part, including the NSA, the interim advisor, all of them are non-Bangladeshis. They are all foreign citizens. In terms of nationality. US citizen, Swedish, UK citizen, Canadian citizen, they are all from all over the place. They are not from Bangladesh because they have given up Bangladesh nationality. So when you give up a Bangladesh nationality and you come back and rule that country, it's how is it being allowed is a big question. 71, sir, another thing, what top intelligence sources have told CNN News 18, along with the contract for uniform. I just want to put out this 71 war thing, if you can put out. The this Lalmor Nirhad case, airbase, a 4.2 kilometer runway built in World War II. Not this, I want the war pictures before we go to this, please, if we can. Now, a 4.2 kilometer runway, this is the one. Now, this is not so far away from the Siliguri corridor, which the Chinese have come and inspected. Now, they want to revive this. It was nothing but a military maintenance unit. They want to create it into a full-fledged thing. Since World War II, this has not been active. It's 12 kilometers from the Indian border, 135 kilometers from the Siliguri corridor. A Chinese delegation was spotted here in April-May 2025. So, there is this aspect. It's 110 kilometers from Hasimara, which is the Rafale squadron is placed there. 95 kilometers from Sukna, where the Trishakti Corps are, and then there are other bases also that come in the radar. Now, along with this, there is another input that's come through. The contract for uniforms actually shows banned groups exploiting businesses in Bangladesh. The KNF is using intermediaries like those named in the FIR for logistical operations. The KNF has ties with Bangladesh-based JAFs, an Islamist terror group. Ties to Islamist terror groups raises fears of coordinated attacks, insurgency growth. Chittagong Hill Tract borders India's northeast and Myanmar's Chin state, so then that tri-area is a problem. The hill tract is becoming a tri-junction for terror operations. Seizure of uniforms signifies militarization of KNF and preparation for conflict. The KNF militants have entered Mizoram disguised as refugees fleeing Bangladesh. So there are multiple problems, and we know there is a larger enemy sitting there who's organizing this turmoil and enjoying and saying, I'd like this.
You know, what you have said makes eminent sense. Well, your job, and you do it brilliantly, is to tell the nation what is happening. We are trained, and I've been 52 years in diplomacy, to try and understand why it is happening. Why was she booted out, Sheikh Hasina? And now she's even alleging that her father was assassinated over St. Martin's Island. I have reason to believe that she's speaking the truth. For the Americans, who is America's enemy number one, sir? It's not India, it's not Russia, it's not Brazil, it's not South Africa, it's China. I want to control China, and if you look at the map of St. Martin's Island, I have been there. I've looked at it very, very carefully. It's ideally located to keep an eye both on Myanmar and on China. The Chinese would be very frightened if a naval base was built there. So I believe that she was booted out because of this. This guy was foisted, but he played footsie with the Chinese, which old MacDonald Trump doesn't like. I sent you there because I want you to be my cat's paw as I clobber China. And on the other hand, you're hopping into bed with the Chinese. Sorry, buddy, it's not going to work. So he's lost that support also, sir. And I believe, sir, whatever you say about the American dark state, some call it, I prefer to call it the dark state. These jokers are aware of what suits them at a particular point of time. Like any dark state anywhere, their policy is use, abuse and discard. Now, as far as this Muhammad Useless Khan is concerned, my fear, my understanding, my anticipation is the discard phase is now coming in. Throw him out. As far as we are concerned, of course these guys are going to create trouble. Nothing more than they've been doing in the past. And while, sir, I say this with total sincerity, while Bharat, my mother, has sons like Lieutenant General Pandey, I don't think we should be worried, sir. We'll be able to deal with these people, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. But with representatives like you, I am very sure, sir, we are able to, we'll be able to manage. But a couple of points you have to just note down. Will US allow the Chinese to use that airbase?
No.
Right. One is that. Second is militarily, right? We should be concerned what comes there. But militarily, will China like to position certain very critical stuff in that location? If yes, for what? He's getting whatever details he wants of takeoff and stuff from variety of places. There are enough elements of Bangladesh which are already as sleeper cells around, and you got satellite coverage, you got so many other coverage to get those data which is required. But yes, we need to be concerned because that is our so-called vulnerability.
Yeah.
But again, we should not swing to one side in terms of antagonizing the Bangladesh army, the people who are actually fond of our country, whose survival, whose daily livelihood is so interlinked to us in terms of trade, in terms of work, everything is involved. But when we will go hammer and tongs by Bangladesh as an entire entity because some foreigners have come to rule that country and be fostered there, and who will fly away when things go wrong eventually. So, it should not happen that in our conversations, we ensure that there is a fissure which comes out, right? Which will be very difficult to be managed.
Mended.
The bottom line also, just please understand that it took India a certain degree of engagement to ensure that all the terrorist leaders, people who are operating, were either pushed out or it was made untenable for them to stay in Bangladesh, and they got eventually either surrendered or they got neutralized over a period of time.
So, but do you see an implosion happening?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. May I intercede here, sir, if you permit?
Sir, please.
I'm in touch with a lot of my friends in Bangladesh, some who left the country, some who are still there. One of them made a very telling comment that obviously doesn't like the present regime. This government is playing around with Islamic terror. Have they not heard of what India did to Pakistan? Now this is a message, sir, not just for these jokers, but for everybody in our neighborhood. I can take you out with precise strikes, you won't even know what has hit you. Tonight the camp is there, a few hours later it ceases to exist. This is a very powerful message, what Robert Merton used to talk about, the unintended consequences of an action. Apart from the fact that BrahMos is the new king in the armaments market and so on. Just the fact that I can obliterate you, sir, that is very, very important. So I think that the wise people of Bangladesh, they are not interested in Islamic terror, the overwhelming majority. They are Bengalis, superior, they believe superior language, superior culture, superior food habits, etc. And which to a very large extent, it's a land of Rabindranath Tagore. So what more can I say? They are very aware of this, so they're not going to fall. Are the 10,000, 15,000 fellows that this guy thinks are going to support him? No, sir. They have understood that terror camps, and if the Chinese, like you rightly said, think that what are they coming there to do? Right. They also know that their airfields can be disabled very quickly in the event of a conflict. That they've probably built some, they built some civilian airports in Nepal. Huge amount of money, no planes land there. What for?
Correct.
Ultimately, Gadar port. Sir, let me conclude by saying, it's not related to Bangladesh, but today I know, sir, if Balochistan decides to go its own way, China will tell Pakistan, hey, Pakistan, you are somewhere near South Africa, we'll deal with Balochistan because my interests go through there.
Well, I think everybody knows that, and when it comes to chicken neck, Bangladesh have two of their own.
Yeah.
So that is also something. I've run out of time. I'm 2 minutes over on this show. I would love to come. We'll take it forward. We've got to talk Turkey too, so I'm going to get you back on the studio tomorrow. That's what we're going to do.
I love to eat chicken legs.
Thank you. Thank you.
Co-presented by This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Enhancing India's indigenous defense capabilities and fostering a robust domestic aerospace industrial ecosystem, the Defense Ministry and the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh has confirmed the approval of the Advanced Multi-Combat Aircraft Program. The Aeronautical Development Agency is set to execute this program through industry partnership. There is going to be a role of private players in this as well. This is important because it is a move towards harnessing the indigenous expertise, capability and capacity to develop the AMCA prototype. It will be a major milestone towards Atmanirbharta in the aerospace sector. This will also give equal opportunities to private and public sectors on a competitive basis. There is going to be soon a fifth generation fighter jet that India is going to be indigenously producing.
In a major push to India's Atmanirbharta approach in the defense sector, Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh has approved the execution model of AMCA program. AMCA program is India's fifth generation fighter aircraft program, which stands for Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft. Till now, we have seen all the developments in papers, documents and the news. But now the development will start on ground because we are expecting an expression of interest in some days from now. It has been made very clear that this program and in fact the development will not be limited to public sector undertakings only. This time it can be an equal opportunity for both private industry and public sector undertakings. In fact, there can be a joint venture that would be working for the development of AMCA aircraft. We know that how in several exhibitions we have seen the prototype model and in fact the developments that have happened till now. The prototype of course is expected by 2027 and the actual aircraft and the deliveries are expected by 2036. We know that how DRDO is the lead agency and ADA, which is an arm of DRDO, is working on the entire project. Till now, officials say that timelines are on track and by 2036 we can expect that AMCA would be a reality. And in fact, the prototype will be seen by 2027. But having seen Sindoor, in fact the Operation Sindoor, we know that how critical and important this project is going to be for Indian Armed Forces. We know that how a fifth generation aircraft is something that Indian Armed Forces need at this point in time. And given the fact that Indian Air Force as of now have aircraft like Rafale, Su-30 MKI and Mirage, so they of course need a fifth generation fighter aircraft, and having one indigenous aircraft is an advantage in itself. At this point in time, while CCS has already approved the execution, Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh has further approved, and now it will be formalized that how public sector undertakings and private entities are coming together to work on the development of this AMCA program that is going to be reality for Indian Armed Forces by 2030.
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Enhancing India's indigenous defense capabilities and fostering a robust domestic aerospace industrial ecosystem, the Defense Ministry and the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh has confirmed the approval of the Advanced Multi-Combat Aircraft Program. The Aeronautical Development Agency is set to execute this program through industry partnership. There is going to be a role of private players in this as well. This is important because it is a move towards harnessing the indigenous expertise, capability and capacity to develop the AMCA prototype. It will be a major milestone towards Atmanirbharta in the aerospace sector. This will also give equal opportunities to private and public sectors on a competitive basis. There is going to be soon a fifth generation fighter jet that India is going to be indigenously producing.
In a major push to India's Atmanirbharta approach in the defense sector, Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh has approved the execution model of AMCA program. AMCA program is India's 5th generation fighter aircraft program, which stands for Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft. Till now, we have seen all the developments in papers, documents and the news. But now the development will start on ground, because we are expecting an expression of interest in some days from now. It has been made very clear that this program, and in fact the development, will not be limited to public sector undertakings only. This time it can be an equal opportunity for both private industry and public sector undertakings. In fact, there can be a joint venture that would be working for the development of AMCA aircraft. We know that how in several exhibitions we have seen the prototype model, and in fact the developments that have happened till now. The prototype, of course, is expected by 2027, and the actual aircraft and the deliveries are expected by 2036. We know that how DRDO is the lead agency, and ADA, which is an arm of DRDO, is working on the entire project. Till now, officials say that timelines are on track, and by 2036 we can expect that AMCA would be a reality. And in fact, the prototype will be seen by 2027. But having seen Sindoor, in fact the Operation Sindoor,
Good evening, you're watching Brass Tacks. I'm Zakir Jacob. It is exactly 3 weeks since India launched Operation Sindoor. Something that had never happened before happened during the course of that 80 hours plus. From 1 a.m. on the 7th of May when Operation Sindoor was launched to 3:35 p.m. on the 10th of May when the Pakistani DGMO called up the Indian DGMO, waved the white flag and called for a ceasefire. India demonstrated that it was possible to exercise multiple sub-nuclear conventional options and make Pakistan pay for terror. Now, we will do a dispassionate analysis of what India was able to achieve through the course of those 80 hours, and we will also have an honest assessment of what is unfinished. What is it that India was not able to achieve? But first, and how can the politics around Operation Sindoor be kept aside? Today, the Prime Minister was in Gujarat for the second day of his two-day visit to his home state, and for the very first time in the last 3 weeks since Operation Sindoor began, for the very first time, the Prime Minister directly addressed the political question or the politics around Operation Sindoor, saying that there is a Saboot gang in this country. Fortunately, this time around, no one is asking for Saboot because the Indian Air Force has provided visual and graphic evidence of the damage it has left behind in Pakistan. Let's listen in to the Prime Minister.
22 मिनट में साथियों, 22 मिनट में उनको ध्वस्त कर दिया। और इस बार तो सब कैमरा के सामने की सारी व्यवस्था रखी थी ताकि हमारे घर में कोई सबूत न मांगे। अब हमें सबूत नहीं देना पड़ रहा है, वो ऊपर वाला दे रहा है।
Now, the Prime Minister's veiled jibe was at the opposition, particularly those in the Congress, who in the past, by the way, have asked, A, what is the evidence of such operations having been carried out? What is the evidence of the damage that's been caused in these operations? In fact, it's not the first time that the Congress party in particular has questioned India's response, particularly to Pakistan-originated terror or Pakistan-sponsored terror. Whether it was 2016 when the Uri surgical strikes happened, or to this latest episode, 2025, when Operation Sindoor was launched, the politics of this whole Saboot or asking for evidence, that doesn't seem to have changed one bit. Now, here's a timeline of how we've seen this sort of politics of evidence play itself out. In 2016, when the brigade headquarters was attacked in Uri and India took revenge for that, with the surgical strikes across the line of control, the Congress questioned the surgical strikes and demanded proof, visual proof of what had actually happened. In 2019, after 40 CRPF personnel were killed in a terrorist attack in Pulwama, India retaliated with the Balakot airstrikes, to which the Congress party asked if the strike took place at all, and as the Pakistani narrative was, it hit a few crows and downed a few trees. Those were the questions that were asked by the principal opposition party. Now in 2025, the Congress continues to ask that very same question as to what is it that Operation Sindoor achieved, who brokered the ceasefire, why has an all-party meeting and a special session of parliament not been called for, and where are these 4 terrorists who were the ones behind Pahalgam? Again, the question that the Congress party asking is, what is the role of the third-party involvement? What has Operation Sindoor achieved? All of these may be valid questions in a democracy and may need to be asked, but it needs to be asked in the right forum, which is the Parliament of India, the temple of democracy, not on Twitter, not in a way that it denigrates and helps you score a few political points. But listen in to what the Congress party's spokespersons had to say on this.
यही हल्की राजनीति. This is what we say. This is what we mean when we say that very low level politics, and that too straight. Troll in chief, divider in chief, the Prime Minister. अब ये troll की भाषा नहीं है तो क्या है? We have a brave army and a coward as a Prime Minister.
Look, on this show, we're not going to give too much credence, too much precedence to the politics, because frankly, the politics will continue. And that's just an extension of, the argumentative Indian society that we are. What we really need to get down to is what has Operation Sindoor achieved? And for that, let's delve a little deeper. Because for the last 25 years, ever since Kargil, and in fact ever since 1998, which is a year before Kargil, when both India and Pakistan became nuclear weapon states, the assumption was that India and Pakistan cannot ever go into an all-out conventional escalation because both countries happen to be nuclear weapon states. What Operation Sindoor has managed to completely call out, obliterate, is this nuclear bluff. That Pakistan always had this false bravado, this false confidence that India, even if it were to respond in the aftermath of these terror attacks, its options will